When you're coming from a troubled background or a string of bad relationships, it's hard to trust yourself when the rubber hits the road and it comes time to make big relationship decisions. When you finally find a relationship with someone who matches your energy and seems to like you back, it is tempting to hit the gas and merge your lives together too soon because you don't want them to get away and, well, because it feels really good. But wait a second. A lot of your past relationships have felt really good in the beginning, but then they fell apart, seemingly out of nowhere. So how do you make the right choice? I get it. I've been there. Hello friends, my name is Maria and I have certainly been the star of Home Makeover, Nightmare Edition. But I've also had good experiences living with someone who was the right choice. I can even tell you a big moment in retrospect where I knew in my gut that my partner was the safe choice when it comes to living together with someone. Even before I had my YouTube channel, I would look back at that moment and I even had a little name for it. I would call it the truck test. I can also tell you a couple of personal lessons I have learned when it comes to who you invite into your life and into your home. So if you're ready to decide if it's time for a 2-car garage, then grab a bottle of nail polish and let's talk. So a while back, I was working out at my gym and suddenly this woman, she was a young woman, she was in her early 20s, she bust into that gym, red-faced, crying, ran up to a trainer who was working, that was her husband, and she began screaming at him because she was cleaning out the car and she found a receipt in the car for a big purchase that he didn't tell her about. And instead of discussing it after he got home, she chose to go to his place of business and in front of his boss and his clients and his coworkers, gave him a complete dressing down as a human being. Everyone in the gym got really quiet. It was extremely awkward, and I can't even imagine how embarrassing it was for him. You know, when you're a coach or a trainer, people are there because they trust your judgment and they see you as some kind of an authority when it comes to that particular situation. Well, I can tell you from the way that she was acting, that woman not only had zero respect for him as a partner, she had zero emotional self-control. It didn't matter to her in the moment that he could have lost clients or lost his job, which means she didn't really care what happened to their family. They had 2 kids together. Have 2 kids together. Well, later down the line, when I was kind of like, hey, what was all that? Well, it turns out that they rushed into a relationship together really quickly. They got pregnant together almost right away. They decided to get married and move in, have 2 kids together. They're only 24 years old and they're already in marriage counseling. I think it's going to be an incredibly tough road for these 2 if they're going to, make it in the long haul. And if they weren't already married and someone was asking my advice, I would say, do not ever move in with someone who is okay publicly hanging you out to dry just because they want to make their point. They're pissed, so they're okay with letting all the chips fall where they may. Anyone who's okay with embarrassing you in public, yeah, well, maybe just stay away in general. What's crazy is I'm sure when they first met, they had fun together and they had a lot of great chemistry and they made a lot of really important decisions way too soon, and now it's biting them in the butt because they didn't really know each other when they decided to make these decisions. And unfortunately, a lot of times, unhappy families are the result. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have crazy good chemistry with someone who's better suited for you. I'm just saying that it's all a lot of fun during that first initial phase. Okay, well, if it's always fun with everyone in the beginning, then how do you get a good gauge on who's really going to show up for you when it comes to a serious relationship? Well, it's something that I have now coined the truck test, or at least that's how I always think of it in my mind. So there was a point in my dating life where I was living with a couple of roommates. There was three of us in the house, so because I have a truck, I was the one parking in the front yard. Well, one morning I got up for work and it had rained really heavy the night before, and my truck was stuck in this muddy ditch, and I was freaking out because I needed to get to work that morning. Well, there was two guys I could choose from to call and try to help me push my truck out of the ditch. For anonymity's sake, I'll call them Pat and Tom. At first I was going to call Pat, but something deep down inside of me stopped me. I chose not to call Pat because I didn't trust that he would come and help me. In fact, I had a sneaky suspicion he'd probably say something like, "Hey, don't you live really close to your dad? Can't he help you out?" I didn't call him because I wasn't sure if he would come to my rescue, and I didn't want to deal with the disappointment knowing that he really might let me down. The thing is, I didn't ever call him. I guess I can't tell you what would have happened, but if I truly, even looking back now, I still only think there was a 50-50 chance that guy ever would have showed up to help me without acting like it was some huge inconvenience for him. And that insecure feeling of knowing that he might not be there for me when I needed him, that's the main reason I never went forward with that relationship. I called Tom instead. I knew he would show up, and he did. Don't get me wrong, I had a blast with Pat whenever we went out. Sure, you can still have great times together, but there's going to be some not so great times too, and it's important that you feel secure in your gut that if life goes into a ditch, this is the kind of person who is standing right there next to you, helping you pull it out. Tom passed the truck test, and that man has been pulling me out of every ditch ever since. What I mean is, even though we have separate jobs, separate hobbies, different tastes in all sorts of things, separate friends, when it comes to significant events like a birthday, a holiday, one of our jobs falls apart, one of us is sick, we get an unexpectedly high bill in the mail, or there's a hurricane coming, or a family member is getting married, he is there. He is present for important things in the relationship, and this is something he began showing me before we ever decided to move in together. He was invested too, and I wasn't the only one trying to prod him along. Now, I know that sometimes partners can't be there for everything because of the jobs they have. Maybe they're firefighters, or maybe they're surgeons. But you still have that inner security because you know exactly where they are. They communicate with you. And the truck test is not a game. That's something that genuinely and organically happened to me. I'm not asking you to manufacture some fake scenario to try to manipulate someone to see if they'll be there for you. This is life. At some point, your truck is gonna hit a ditch. With the person that you are spending so much love and time and energy investing in, would they come and pull you out of a ditch if you ever needed it? Would they stand by you if something really tough happened? Would they support you and still want the best for you, even in the middle of a fight? If you guys were isolated together somewhere for an extended period of time, how do you think you would do? There is a reason why people say if you want to test a relationship, travel together, even if it's just for a few days. I don't even think it's a bad idea because you can really see what it's like when you only have each other to depend on, and sometimes you only have each other to talk to. I personally knew a woman who saw a guy for a few months. They would go out dancing a couple times a week, and so far they were having a really good time together. So they decided to take a 5-day trip and broke up on the way home. Because once they were isolated together, it didn't take them long to figure out that unless they were sleeping together or dancing together, their relationship dynamic didn't work in any other scenario. And that sucks. Breakups suck, but better to find out sooner than later. What if they had decided to move in together after only a few months? What if this woman had given up a lease to move in with this guy, only to figure out 2 weeks later, oh my gosh, this was a huge mistake, but now she's invested, and now she's more desperate to try and make the relationship work. Desperation is always at the bottom of terrible ideas and rushed decisions. If you are in a position where you cannot afford your own housing, please consider living with a family member or a couple of roommates. I was once at a point where I was working a really low-paying retail job, and I was sharing an apartment with like 4 other people. And no, this is not ideal, but neither is rushing and putting your name on a lease with someone where the situation could potentially implode. And now you get to see the person who broke your heart every single day. And if you would like to watch a video on a real viewer who wrote me about that exact scenario, living with his narcissistic ex-girlfriend, yeah, no, it was a nightmare. But I'll go ahead and I'll post that video down in the description below. Yeah, just so you know, he made it through and he's doing much better. I did get a follow-up email from him, so if you do go back and watch the video, he's doing real good. If I remember correctly, they moved in together after about 5 months, and the relationship was still going very well, and it only took about 2 months for the true colors to be shown and everything to fall apart. But you have to remember, those first 5 or 6 months in a relationship when you are together and in love, it really is its own little world. It feels incredible, but that doesn't mean it's the ideal time to make big decisions for your relationship's future. It really does take more time to find out all the weak spots in your relationship and figure out if they're deal breakers, how you resolve conflicts together. And because there is a honeymoon phase, it can take quite a while sometimes to really find out what makes the other person tick. Now, I am not trying to be a pessimist, but if you are a lot like me, what are the odds that you will immediately find someone who is fresh off the factory floor with no trauma, no baggage, and no issues? Now, come on, we all have issues, and that's perfectly okay. But the big point is you find out their issues, and when they're combined with your own issues, how does that play out in the relationship dynamic? For example, I mean, what if the issues that you guys have just don't combine well? Like if you're a highly anxious person, you're probably not going to have a great time living with someone who stonewalls you. I would encourage you to wait until you've at least run the spectrum of emotions together before you make the decision to move in. How do they act when they're happy and when they are sad? When they are frustrated or they have a bad day at work, do they take it out on you? What happens when someone cuts them off in traffic? Do you find that they have hair trigger rage issues? Are they appreciative when other people do nice things for them? And when something good happens to their friends or a family member, are they genuinely happy for them? Here's one of the most important ones. Do they allow you to have the kind of inner peace that gives you the mental bandwidth and autonomy to be able to become the best version of yourself? Can you grow as a person in the relationship, or are you always too busy and focused on the latest drama? Like, you can't have any consistency in your life because you never know what kind of mood you're going to come home to. And in some really tough cases, you won't even know if you're coming home to someone who's sober. You know, at first, toxic drama might feel like something that's filling up an emptiness in your life. And if you've been alone for a really long time, or you suffer from childhood PTSD, well, in a weird way, it can feel better than nothing. But before long, that toxicity will soak through your life and drown the very best parts of you. It will drown your potential. I have a guy friend who told me the exact reason he chose to move in with and marry his wife was because she allowed him, he's a bodybuilder, and she allowed him to show up in life as his best self because he wasn't always focused on some toxic drama BS all the time, like that had been the case in some of his past relationships. And he would say that it would totally tear down his progress at the gym because he just couldn't focus. He married his wife because not only was she beautiful on the outside, she was also beautiful on the inside. Well, welcome to The Other Half, where we know attraction is not just about looks. We also have to take care of the inner half. And if what's inside is telling you that you're not sure about this person who you're considering moving in with, the answer is no, or at least not yet. And if this other person really loves you and says they want to spend the rest of their life with you, then there is absolutely no rush to move in with someone after only a couple of months. The right person will wait for you, and even if they want and they're excited to start a family and move in together right away, you know, there's something really attractive about leaning back and showing people that you are someone who is willing to, you know, think about things and weigh your options. You're going to take control, and you're not just going to let life happen to you just because other people want things. You're doing what's best for you. I think it's really common in the very beginning of relationships. That's when people are really feeling things out. That's when a lot of fears come up, and that's when people are weighing their options. Like, is this going to be a good person? Can I sustain this relationship? I also think it's pretty normal. A lot of people get together, freak out, break up, and get back together again. But this is why it's so important that you have your own safe place to go to every night while you are feeling out this new relationship. This way, there is no external pressure to try to force something to work that is just not working. It's important that you feel at all times that the decision process is an active decision and you have a choice. And it's incredibly important that the other person also feels that way. They must feel like merging your lives together and living together is their idea too. You both want this, and nothing is being influenced by hardship or desperation or ultimatums. I had a viewer ask me if I believe in timelines, and not really, because every relationship is different and we all come from different emotional backgrounds. As long as you're seeing some kind of reasonable progress in the relationship, and again, most importantly, that the other person is showing you in their actions and their words that they're investing too. Maybe not in the same way you are, because we all show love differently, but the love is being shown. But if you are someone who's viewing this channel, just know that I do care about your happiness. And if you were my child, I would tell you, please wait at least a year before making this decision, and make the decision soberly. And here's something else you can ask yourself when you are considering this person. Could you quarantine with them and still keep that inner peace? I know that sounds like an extreme scenario, but it's not like any of us can say that has never happened in our lifetime. Take me, for example. Earlier this week, a Category 4 hurricane hit my town. Now, I'm filming this video way in advance. I have no idea what's about to happen in a couple of days. And I do hope that you will still comment down below, even though it might take me a little longer to respond this weekend. I mean, by the time you watch this, my family's probably going to be hunkered down somewhere eating cold food without electricity. That's a lot to deal with, and emotions are going to be running high. And if you are really honest about the partner you are considering moving in with and sharing your life with, is this a scenario where they would help support you and help you keep that inner peace? Or do you have a guttural suspicion that before long they would give you a raging case of cabin fever by ILNP? My name is Maria Adriana. You did not have to live my life, but I certainly hope you can learn something from it. As always, thank you for visiting The Other Half.